The dinner rush had already started when she clocked in that evening. The restaurant was filling up fast, and she could hear the kitchen getting busy behind the counter. She had been working there for almost 3 years now, and by this point, the chaos of a Friday night felt like a familiar dance. She knew which tables would need extra napkins, which customers would ask for modifications to their orders, and which ones would be sitting there for hours just talking and laughing with their friends. Her name was less important than the work she did. She took pride in what she did, even though it was just waiting tables. Some people thought waitressing was not a real job, not a career, but she knew better. She knew that she was often the first person a customer saw when they walked in, and sometimes she was the reason they felt welcome or felt like they didn't belong. That kind of power mattered to her. Around 7 in the evening, a man walked in with a boy. The man was dressed in an expensive-looking gray suit. He moved quietly, almost like he was trying not to take up too much space in the room, even though he was a tall person. The boy with him was around 10 or 11 years old, and he walked differently. His movements were not smooth. It looked like he had to think about each step before he took it. His legs seemed to not always do exactly what his brain was telling them to do. She noticed them because she noticed everything. That was part of her job, and also just part of who she was. She could read a room better than most people. She could see when someone was celebrating something, when someone was sad, when someone was uncomfortable. This man and this boy seemed uncomfortable in different ways. The man looked like he was worried about what everyone was thinking. He kept glancing around at the other tables, his jaw tight. The boy looked like he wanted to be somewhere else, maybe somewhere quieter. His eyes were moving around the restaurant, but it seemed like the noise and the lights were too much for him. When they were seated at a corner table, the boy sat down, but he didn't seem relaxed. His hands were fidgeting with the edge of the menu. She walked over to their table with menus and water glasses, moving slowly and with a smile that was real, not the kind of smile that people give when they are just trying to do their job. She had learned a long time ago that people could tell the difference. "Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?" she asked, placing the glasses down carefully so the ice wouldn't splash everywhere. The man looked up at her quickly, and something in his expression changed for just a second. It was like he was expecting her to treat his son differently, like she might make a comment or show that she felt sorry for him. But she didn't do that. She just smiled and waited for them to be ready to order, the same way she did with every other table. The boy looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes. There was a brightness there, like maybe he had been thinking about this restaurant, about eating here, and now that he was here, he was remembering why he had wanted to come. "We're good," the man said quietly. "Can we get a few more minutes to look at the menu?" "Of course, take your time. My name is what you can call me, and I'll be back in just a minute to check on you," she said. She had learned that using her name made people feel like they were being taken care of, like they were not just another table number. It was a small thing, but small things mattered. Over the next few minutes, she kept moving back and forth across the restaurant, taking orders, bringing food, checking on people, clearing plates. It was the kind of work that did not stop. Her feet were starting to hurt a little bit, and she could feel the beginning of a headache right above her eyes, but that was normal. That was just what the job was like on Friday nights. When she came back to their table, the boy seemed a little bit more comfortable. His shoulders were not quite so tight. The man was pointing at something on the menu and explaining it to his son. The boy was listening carefully. "Are we ready?" she asked, and this time the boy actually answered. "I want the pasta with the red sauce," he said, his voice a little slow but clear and sure. "Great choice," she said, and she meant it. "That one's really good. Do you want anything to drink? Can I have lemonade?" the boy asked, looking at his father. The man nodded, and she could see something soften in his face. It was just a small thing, his son ordering something and him saying yes, but it seemed like it meant something to him. One pasta with red sauce and a lemonade. "And what can I get for you?" She turned to the man. He ordered something simple, something plain. She had noticed that people who seemed worried or stressed usually ordered simple things. They did not have the energy to be adventurous with their food. As she walked away from their table, she did not think about them again for a while. She was busy. One of the other waiters had called in sick, which meant the rest of them were working harder and faster than usual. There was a table of 8 college kids who were being loud and messy, and there were other customers who needed things constantly. This was how the job was, but somewhere around 40 minutes into their meal, something made her notice them again. The boy was laughing. Not a small laugh, but a real, full laugh. She looked over and saw that his father had said something that had made him really happy. They were still eating, but the air around their table had changed. The tension was gone. She felt something in her chest when she saw that. That was the thing about working in a restaurant that nobody really talked about. Sometimes you gotta see people let go of their worries for a little while. You gotta see families enjoy being together. You gotta be part of something that mattered, even if you were just the person bringing them their food. When she brought the check, the boy was still smiling. His father was watching him, and the man had this look on his face, like he was remembering something important. Like he was seeing his son in a way that made him sad and happy at the same time. "Thank you for taking such good care of us," the man said to her, and his voice was different now. It was not as guarded. "It was my pleasure," she said, and again, she meant it. "I hope you guys have a great night." As she turned to walk away, the boy looked up at her. "You were nice to me," he said. Simple and honest, the way that only kids could be. She turned back and smiled at him. And in that moment, she did not know that this night was going to change her life. She could not have known that this man sitting in the corner of her restaurant was someone whose influence reached far beyond this small moment. She did not know that he was watching her, really watching her, and noticing something about the way she treated his son that would matter to him in a way that nothing else had mattered in a long time. All she knew was that she had done her job well, and she had made someone happy. And for now, that was enough. The week after that Friday night, things went back to normal. Or at least, that is what she thought at first. She worked her shifts, went home, paid her bills, and lived her life the way she always did. She did not think much about the man and the boy who had come in that evening. They were just 2 customers out of hundreds that she served every month. That was how she had to think about it, to not get emotionally exhausted from her job. But then something happened that made her remember that night in a completely different way. It was a Wednesday, and the restaurant had a new music system installed. The owner had hired some company to upgrade the old speakers and add a touchscreen where customers could request songs. The owner was excited about it, thinking it would make the place feel more modern and give people more control over what they listened to while they ate. She was working that night, as usual. It was a quieter evening than the Friday had been. There were families with young kids, a few couples on dates, and some older people just coming in for dinner and conversation. The new music system was playing a mix of different songs, mostly current pop music and some older classics that seemed to appeal to a wide range of people. Around 7:30 in the evening, she was standing near the bar, waiting for an order to come up from the kitchen. She was checking her phone, seeing if she had any messages, when she heard the music change. A song came on that made her smile without even thinking about it. It was an upbeat song, something with a lot of energy and joy in it. The kind of song that made you want to move, even if you were just standing still. She started swaying a little bit, just moving her shoulders and her hips, the way you do when a good song comes on and you cannot help yourself. She was not thinking about anything except that the song made her feel good. She had worked 3 double shifts in a row, and her feet hurt, and she was tired. But this song was making her forget about all of that for a moment. Then she heard a voice. "Hey, can you dance with me?" She turned around, and her heart almost stopped. It was the boy. The same boy from the Friday night, the one with his father. He was sitting at a table near the bar with what looked like his father and another man in a suit. The boy was looking directly at her, and there was something hopeful in his face, like he was asking for something that he really wanted but was not sure he was allowed to ask for. For a second, she hesitated. She was at work. There were other customers. The manager was somewhere in the restaurant. Dancing with a customer, even a child, seemed like something that might get her in trouble. These were the kinds of thoughts that go through a server's head when they have worked in restaurants long enough to know that there are rules and expectations. But then she looked at the boy's face again, and she remembered what had happened the last time she had been kind to him. She remembered how his face had lit up, how he had said, "You were nice to me," like it was something that did not happen very often in his life. "Yeah," she said, and she smiled at him. "I'll dance with you." She walked around the bar and over to his table. The boy's face changed completely. His whole expression became brighter. His father and the other man were watching, but she did not look at them. She kept her attention on the boy. The song was at a point where it had a good beat, and the music was loud and fun. She took the boy's hand gently and helped him up from his chair. She could feel how his weight was not distributed evenly, how he had to concentrate to stand up, but he stood anyway. She could also feel how hard he was trying to do this, how much he wanted to do this. Then they danced. It was not anything fancy or complicated. She was just moving to the music, and the boy was moving with her, doing his best to follow the beat. His movements were not smooth and did not match the music perfectly, but that did not matter at all. What mattered was that he was smiling. What mattered was that in this moment, in this small corner of this restaurant, a young boy was experiencing joy. Some of the other customers were looking at them now. She could feel the attention, but it did not make her uncomfortable or embarrassed. If anything, it made her want to keep going, to make sure this moment lasted as long as possible for the boy. She moved a little closer to him, making it easier for him to move with her. She kept smiling at him. She spoke to him. "This is a great song, right?" she said, and the boy nodded, his face bright red but glowing with happiness. "It is," he said, and he was trying so hard to keep up with the dance. She was aware of time passing, but she was not sure how much time had actually gone by. It could have been 30 seconds or 5 minutes. It did not matter. When the song started to fade out and move into the next one, she gently guided the boy back to his chair. He sat down, breathing a little harder than before, but still smiling. His father was looking at her with an expression that she could not quite read. It was not angry or disapproving. It looked more like something had moved him emotionally, like he had just seen something that meant something important to him. "Thank you," the boy said to her, his voice sincere and grateful in a way that felt old for someone his age. "You are welcome," she said. "Thank you for dancing with me." She went back to her work after that, but something had changed in the restaurant. She could feel it. People were talking quietly about what they had just seen. One woman at a nearby table was smiling and shaking her head like she had just witnessed something beautiful and surprising. The whole energy of the room felt different, warmer somehow. For the rest of that shift, she did her job the same way she always did. She brought people their food. She refilled their water glasses. She took orders and answered questions about what was on the menu. But she was also aware that the boy and his father and the other man were still sitting at their table, and they kept looking in her direction when they finally got up to leave. Several hours later, the boy came over to say goodbye. His father was standing a few steps behind him, watching. The boy held out his hand, like he was shaking her hand in a formal way, which was funny and sweet because he was just a kid. "I had a really good time," he said. "You made this the best night." She shook his hand and bent down a little so she was closer to his eye level. "You made my night better too," she said, and she meant it completely and honestly. His father stepped forward then. He asked if there was a manager on duty, and she pointed him toward the back office. She did not think much about it at the time. People sometimes asked to talk to a manager to give compliments or to complain. It happened pretty regularly. She finished her shift that night with no idea that the conversation the man was having with the manager was going to change the course of her entire life. She did not know that he was asking questions about her, about how long she had worked there, about what her background was. She did not know that this moment of pure spontaneity, this decision to dance with a customer's child, was being observed and noted by someone who had the power to make significant things happen. As she drove home that night, she felt good. Her feet still hurt. She was still tired. But she felt like she had done something good, something real, something that mattered. She felt like she had made a child happy, and in a job where much of the time you feel invisible or underappreciated. That feeling was everything. She fell asleep that night not knowing that her life was about to change. She woke up the next morning and went about her day the same way she always did, waiting for her next shift at the restaurant, completely unaware that someone was watching, someone was thinking about her, and someone was planning something that would alter her entire future. 3 days had passed since the dance. 3 normal days where she worked her shifts, went home, and tried not to think too much about what had happened. But it was hard not to think about it. Every time she heard that song come on the music system, she remembered the boy's face, how happy he had been, how his father had looked at her with that expression she could not quite understand. She was starting to wonder if maybe she had made a mistake. Maybe dancing with a customer during her shift had been unprofessional. Maybe the father had complained to the manager, and she was going to get in trouble. These were the kinds of thoughts that played in her head while she was working, while she was doing her job, trying to be present for the people she was serving. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, the manager called her into his office. Her stomach dropped when he told her this. She was not scheduled to work that day, so she had not expected to come in at all. When he called her and asked if she could come by the restaurant, she immediately started thinking of all the things that could have gone wrong. Had she made a mistake with someone's order? Had a customer complain about her service? Had something happened that she did not even know about? She drove to the restaurant, and her hands felt shaky on the steering wheel. She kept trying to think if there was anything that could have gotten her fired. Because in her experience, when a manager called you in on a day, you were not scheduled to work. It was usually bad news. The restaurant was not open yet. It was just after 2 in the afternoon, and they did not open until 5. She parked in the back and walked inside through the kitchen entrance. She could see some of the kitchen staff preparing things for the dinner service, but the main dining area was empty and quiet. The manager was in his small office in the back. His name was somebody, but she just called him by his title when she needed to talk to him. He was a decent boss as far as restaurant managers went. He did not micromanage too much, and he usually treated the staff okay. But he was still a manager, which meant there was always a distance between him and the people who worked for him. "Hey, come on in," he said when he saw her. He was not smiling, but he was not frowning either. His face was neutral, which did not tell her anything about whether she was in trouble or not. She sat down in the chair across from his desk, and she felt her heart beating in her chest. She was trying to prepare herself for whatever was about to happen. Was she getting fired? Was she being written up? Was there some complaint that she had not heard about? So, the manager started, and he leaned back in his chair. "I had a really interesting conversation a few days ago. A customer came in and asked to speak with me. He wanted to know about one of our staff members. Here it comes, she thought. This is it. He was asking about you, the manager continued. He wanted to know how long you had been working here, what your background was, what your performance was like, things like that. She felt confused. This was not what she had been expecting. Is that okay? She asked carefully. Did I do something wrong? The manager shook his head. No. You didn't do anything wrong. Actually, quite the opposite. This customer said that you provided exceptional service to him and his son. He said you went above and beyond to make them feel welcome. He specifically mentioned the dance. She felt her face get hot. She had been thinking about the dance, but hearing the manager bring it up made it feel real in a way it had not before. She had wondered if it was inappropriate, if she should have said no. I know that was maybe not the most traditional thing to do, she said quickly. But the kid asked, and he seemed like he was having a hard time, and I just thought it would be nice to. It was great, the manager interrupted her. The customer loved it. He said it was one of the kindest things he had ever seen. He told me that his son has been dealing with some challenges, and that moment with you meant more to him than I think you probably realize. She was not sure what to say. She had just done what felt right in the moment. She had not been thinking about how it would affect anyone. She had just wanted to make a kid happy. But here's the thing, the manager said, and now his expression changed slightly. There was something different in his face, like he was trying to figure out how to say something important. This customer is not just any customer. He is a significant person in this city. He owns businesses. He has money and influence. And he was really impressed with you. Impressed enough that he asked to meet with you. The words did not make sense for a second. She played them back in her head, trying to understand what the manager was saying. He wants to meet with me? She asked. Why would he want to meet with me? He did not go into specifics with me, the manager said. But he left his contact information and asked me to pass it to you. He said it was about an opportunity. He said if you were interested, you could call him and set up a time to talk. The manager pulled out a small card from his desk drawer and slid it across the desk toward her. It was a business card, expensive looking, with a name and a phone number on it. The name meant nothing to her, but the title underneath, it did mean something. It said something about real estate and development, and it said something about a foundation. She picked up the card and looked at it. The phone number was local. The office was somewhere downtown. She turned the card over in her hands, trying to process what was happening. He seems like a serious person, the manager said. Not the type to waste time or make idle offers. If he wants to meet with you, there is probably something real behind it. But of course, it is completely up to you whether you want to call him or not. She nodded slowly. She still did not fully understand what was happening. She felt like she was missing something, like there was context that she did not have. Did he say anything else? She asked. Like what kind of opportunity? Just that it was something he thought you would be interested in. Something that could make a real difference. He seemed pretty sincere about it. And he seemed like he was not going to take no for an answer, if you understand what I mean. She understood. She understood that this man had money and power, and he had decided that he wanted something from her or wanted to do something for her. Either way, it put her in a position where she had to make a choice. Okay, she said. Thank you for telling me. You should probably call him, the manager said. Sooner rather than later. People like that. They expect responses. They are not used to waiting for things. She left the manager's office feeling like she was walking through a dream. She looked at the business card again as she walked out to her car. She read the name, but it still did not mean anything to her. She had never heard of this person. She did not know who he was or what his business was, or why he would care about her. But she knew this much. Something was about to change. She could feel it in her gut, the way you feel when something significant is about to happen, but you do not know what it is yet. She had danced with a boy, and now, somehow, that small moment was turning into something bigger. That night, she sat in her apartment holding the business card. She looked at it for a long time. She thought about calling, but she also thought about not calling. What if this was some kind of scam? What if calling the number led to something strange or uncomfortable? What if she was just a waitress, and this man was going to realize that he had made a mistake, that there was nothing about her that was worth his time or attention? But then she thought about the boy. She thought about how happy he had been when they danced. She thought about how maybe this man was offering to help her because he wanted to be kind, because she had been kind to his son. And maybe, just maybe, if she did not call, she would miss out on something that could actually change her life. She looked at the card one more time, took a deep breath, and picked up her phone. She typed the number in slowly, checking each digit twice to make sure she had it right. Then she pressed the call button and waited to see what would happen next.